Slow down. Slow down. Slow down.
What is it?
So, since we incorporated paranormal activity in this interview, what comes to you in your mind when you hear tales about paranormal commotions or stories or yung mga mitolohiya tungkol sa paranormal activity?
I do not call it mythology, but these are documented cases of paranormal activities. So we call it paranormal activities. Normally, it's about, poltergeist, ghost, naughty ghost, sabi nga nila.
Yes,
Kasi Casper is a poltergeist, actually. And there are also what we call this taxonomy of paranormal activities. There are spirits, there are ghosts, there are elementals, and what we call ghost, poltergeist is really under the rubric of ghost. Okay, malevolent spirit and everything.
Next question. Have you witnessed such activities where the ambience during the course of an incident was very distinct and surreal?
I had once in college, when we had this spirit of the glass thingy. So, yeah, it's kind of chilling, but I think it's something that I only expect to experience, and not, not literally that was what happened. I feel like feeling something like that.
Next question. Next question, sir. So, assuming that paranormal activities do transpire, did it change your norm somehow, or because you are a behavioral scientist, of course? So, there's just two sides of explanation when such incidents occur. One coming from a behavioral scientist.
And
Do you believe in some expertise, so-called espiritista?
spiritista
Or-
the medium.
Yes, sir.
Mm.
Or do you consider their standpoint as true or false?
in in questions like paranormal activities, normally I'm wearing two hats. As a sociologist, everything that people believe to be true and real are subject of our, you know, investigation, whether it's about God, angels, paranormal, elementals, and everything. If there are realities created by this perception, we are into it. Okay? But we do not evaluate whether spirits exist or not. What we evaluate are people's behavior about these concepts. But I have, of course, several friends who shared their encounter with, some paranormal entities, and I kind of with tongue in cheek, no, I always say I envy you because I haven't had any experience like that. So I hope the answer is clear. As a sociologist, we explore realities that people make for themselves, whether it is ghosts, angels, or anything else. Okay?
Is there a way to bridge the gap between science and this abstract notion? If yes, how? Or if no, why not?
There is an attempt. I will recall two possible or two cases in mind. One is Ghostbusters. Okay, the Ghostbusters is the first movie who would like to show that if that ghosts may not be seen or invisible, but using technologies like camera. What is this weapon that they have?
Something.
I don't know, no, but there is this technology that they use to to sense the presence, diba? Meron silang ghost meter, and they have this powerful thing that can capture spirits, no, or ghosts. The second.
So, in regard to the previous question, what basically sets it apart from science?
It has a reality of its own. It's a different dimension actually, and if you are operating on different dimension, you should obviously use different methodologies and technologies. For example, if you're going to watch, sorry, this what's the name of this a Japanese animation? Oh, is it animation where every time they encounter the enemy will bring them into a different plane where they are so big, they become giant. So Ultraman, I think.
Ah, yes, it also.
Ultraman, yeah, they will go in a different, different dimension, and Bolt's 5 too, no? Something like that. So if you operate on a different dimension where physical laws are different from the physical laws of Earth, definitely you will have to use a different technology. Okay? So in short, it may be true, but the technologies that we have today may not work on that particular plane or dimension.
Question, sir. Opposing that paranormal activities such as ghosts and ghouls do exist, does it follow that God belongs to the cluster of these entities? Why and why not?
Yeah, to a certain extent. They belong to the same thing but in different categories. God is something that we do not want to subject to research. I have not seen a movie that attempt to capture God.
Indeed, sir.
Okay?
You just try to explain.
Yeah, explain, but something like capturing him, knowing his essence, I haven't seen any movie yet.
Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe
but
some type of
ghosts
creature.
belonging to that invisible world is something interesting. Probably simply because we cannot understand them, which we can capture them. But God is something that we do not understand, and yet we have the Bible to, to understand Him. So no need to capture Him in a sense. It's kind of funny.
Yes, indeed, sir.
So
Any final thoughts regarding the paranormal entities and all that compromises it?
Okay, so I'm speaking uh, on behalf of my my discipline, sociology. Okay, so paranormal activities are cultural universals, which means every known culture have their own versions of ghosts. Every known culture have their own versions of things that we do not see and yet manifest themselves in different ways.
So it's just like religion.
Something like religion. Each culture have their own notion of deity. Some religions do not have deity at all, but they have a special human beings, that represent that kind of uh, types of persona. Okay, so but it is interesting to note that paranormal activities represent some cultural desires, to understand hidden structures in society. For example, most of the Western paranormal activities pertain to spirits. But in the third world country, most paranormal activities pertains to elementals like dwarves, yeah, kapre and everything. These are malevolent spirits, no? But in the Western world, most of their paranormal activities revolve around unknown and unidentifiable spirit, not necessarily elementals. Right? I have two case in point. If you watch Final Destination, there's a whole series of Final Destination. They're being hunted by force they do not understand.
Yes. Just
In
like
our
this.
in our culture, we have a name for that force that they do not understand. It's death. So we have versions of that like Sundo. Every time we are at the verge of dying, we have our relatives, father, grandfather, who are there on our side, trying to take us to that light before us. It has a face, but in the Western world, it's a force, a brute force, an unnamed force.
So
So it's kind of cultural
oh,
in a sense.
excuse me.